science fiction has given us a lot of interesting ideas in terms of AI. Arthur C. Clarke has been central. Back in the 60s, he was already predicting that we would be surpassed by mechanical brains, by AI. I mean, he's absolutely right. And of course, he was part of the whole 2001 A Space Odyssey thing. So he was predicting that the potential of AI, shall we say. But even within the world of computer science itself, there are certain individuals who have always been aware of the dangers. I know that it's now become a big issue just in the last few months, but actually there were others. Stuart Russell, for example, who wrote the book on AI. He's a professor in the UK now at UC Berkeley. And he was worried about autonomous weapons. So he sponsored a movie called Slaughterbots. And in that movie, he shows what would happen if you had some drones which were good at facial recognition, that had weapons and so on, that could basically go out there and murder people. And of course, what we found out from the Russia-Ukraine war is that drones are extremely useful these days. But we can be thankful that, frankly, that Putin is not using AI in the way that I feared he was, or he would be. Putin actually some time ago made this comment that whoever controls AI controls the world. So I was convinced he was working on these kind of weapons, but it transpires that he hasn't been. We've got to be grateful he's been siphoning off all the funding for AI research and using it to kind of build his houses and so on. But frankly, that is the risk, you know, eventually that you get autonomous weapons. So there are people from all sorts of from all areas that have been kind of warning us about this for some time now, and we need to be alert to that for sure. The difficulty, of course, is what do you do about it? You know, I think the idea that came up recently, this letter that was, you know, signed by many of the leading figures in the field, are calling for a halt or a slowing down of large language models, you know, makes no sense at all. I mean, as a former athlete, I can tell you, you know, if you're leading the Olympic marathon and someone tells you to slow down, that's the last thing you want to do because your competitors are going to catch up. So that's not going to work. But you know, I think now people are beginning to sort of pick up on what we should do and how we should handle this and things. But the problem is ultimately, how do you control these things? You know, if we can't stop Putin going into Ukraine, and we can't, frankly, how do we control AI? And I think the problem is that there is no mechanism of controlling these things. And we can set up some ethics committee and so on, but in the end, I think it's going to be very difficult to regulate.